Hello everyone, this is part 15 of What If Naruto Traveled Back in Time and Changed, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Council Chambers, 10 days after prelims. Naruto walked in alongside Tsunade and reported into the council. Naruto noticed that Itachi was sitting at the right hand of the Hokage, Jirai was standing next to the elders, Fugaku looked upset, and the council seemed agitated. Hiruzen waited for Tsunade to take her seat at the council and Naruto decided to form a seat to relax and wait for the shitshow to start. Boy, you will stand in front of your elders and council. Homura began before he was cut off by Hiruzen. That is quite alright, Homura. He just got back from a journey to a summoning realm. Hiruzen said, blowing yet another secret to the damnable council. What summons did you gain, boy? Koharu asked condescendingly. Nunya. Naruto answered plainly. Koharu looked confused. I have never heard of a Nunya summoning clan. Naruto smiled glibly when he saw Shikaku groan. You may know it better by its full name. It is called Nunya-ing business. Naruto couldn't stop the chuckles that escaped his throat, especially when the elders and civilians acted up. Naruto winked to Tsunade and the other clan heads that were suppressing their laughter, except Tsume who was howling. Naruto continued over the howling laughter. Besides, you two old farts are no longer part of this council. The vote was taken to remove you and I see no reason for you to be here. Hiruzen called order back to the council as Naruto reclined in the wooden rocker he made. Hiruzen gave Naruto a stern look. Please refrain from inciting my council, Mr. Senju. I have asked Koharu and Homura to be here for the remainder of my tenure. Now, summons a council business so we will start on that front. What summons do you have? Naruto looked at Tsunade, who gave a nod, before looking at the Hokage. It is an individual summoning contract with the Jura Tempest Forest. You will receive no further explanation because it is a unique summoning contract. Shikaku glanced up as he lifted his head off the desk. You allied with the forest. Naruto shrugged, more specifically, the creatures of the forest. Shibi Aburame met Naruto's gaze and Naruto nodded. Yes, Lord Aburame, there are some unique insects in that forest. Some of them are sentient as well since they were named by the leader of that forest. Shibi hummed with excitement and anticipation. May I invite you to a formal dinner at the Aburame compound to discuss this further? Shibi didn't care about the objections and rules of the council, he needed this for his clan. Naruto smiled, completely different from how he interacted with the rest of the council. Yes, you may. I have a couple experiments with your bugs that I wish to try. Hiruzen coughed. So, other than bugs, what other types of creatures can you summon? All creatures are sentient and requested privacy. This isn't a servitude contract, it is a mutual summoning agreement. Now, for what other reason have I been called here? Naruto asked in monotone. Because you caused an incident with Iwa, boy. Homura was literally scowling now. He had enough of this brat. First Danzo, then everything that he had done to cause their deposal and now the downright disrespectful attitude. Oh, shut the up and listen Homura. You are not an elder, you are a guest. I hold higher standing in this village than you, so you will stop referring to me as boy before I put you in the retirement home where you belong. Naruto stood from his chair and challenged Homura. Hiruzen stood and flared his aura while Itachi appeared in front of Naruto and put a comforting hand on his shoulder that told him to take it no further. Silence remained in the council chambers, but it was clear that the Hokage wasn't pleased. Naruto, enough of that. During your absence, Iwa sent a letter of reprimand and asked for you to be removed from the Chunin exams. Okay, so remove me. Naruto said, not giving a flying. He made it through most of his previous life as a genin, despite the fact that he had fought and killed multiple S-rank ninjas. Hiashi asked the question on everyone's mind. You don't want to be promoted to Chunin. Naruto, you clearly deserve it. Naruto chuckled dryly. Then asked the Hokage why I haven't been granted a promotion. I am sure you already know I could have earned a field promotion. That begs the question why I am in the Chunin exams, other than to support my teammates. Of course, it is most probably because of the publicity and earnings that Konoha gains from me being in the exams. Silence, dead silence as Naruto called the Hokage on his bluff in front of the council. Finally, Hiruzen's sigh echoed around the council. Damn it, Naruto, must you treat me as an adversary? Naruto didn't respond. We have denied Iwa's request and told Onoki it was because of the improper conduct of their own kunoichi. We will need to negotiate recompense for the injuries to their genin. Naruto ed an eyebrow. Recompense. When my own grandmother and member of this village council provided them healing free of charge. They were able to walk out of the arena that night. Grow a spine and tell the old fence sitter to go sit on a cactus. They sent that team here with a mission to cripple or kill me or the ones I love. If you want to shut the old up, look into his granddaughter. She was promoted to Chunin like 2 years ago. This drew murmurs from the council, but Naruto knew it was true from his previous life. It was Inoiki that stood up and spoke in Naruto's defense. While there might be implications, Naruto's actions stopped the Yamanaka clan from calling for war. They deserve nothing and should get nothing from us. Shikaku backed up his friend, but he needed a question answered first. How do you know that Naruto? Next, I agree with Inoiki that your intervention was appropriate, if your methods weren't a little extreme. Iwa is a known enemy of the sand. I lived in Suna for years. Ask Raza for his file on the girl. She is a Jonin class kunoichi and I am going to destroy her in front of her grandfather. Before you throw a fit, grow a backbone and understand the situation. Iwa has no allies and no backup. We are allied with Suna and Kumo and on good terms with Water Country and Wave Country. Naruto chastised the council. While you make good points, it is not wise to needlessly antagonize a great power, Naruto. Hiashi cautioned. Then couldn't you reverse that logic and tell Iwa that it isn't wise to antagonize 3 great powers while attempting to kill the heir of the Senju clan and 4th Hokage? Naruto shot back and shut Hiashi up, a little more harshly than he intended to. However, it effectively got his message to the council, who seemed to agree with his way of thinking. Why not use this opportunity to demonstrate that while Konoha desires peace, no country should mistake our kindness for weakness. Show Iwa how much they stand to lose if they oppose us and offer them a taste of what life would be like if they laid old grudges to rest. You say that, but you nearly crippled 3 of their shinobi. Hiruzen said wearily. So what? I know you're old but come on. Where is the god of shinobi? Where is the professor? Where is Hiruzen mothering Sarutobi? Naruto asked, raising his voice as he went. The shinobi council was stunned, Jiraiya was gobsmacked, the civilian council didn't know what to do with ninja affairs, and Hiruzen was hanging his head in shame. Stunned silence followed Naruto's provocations until Tsunade spoke softly. That is enough, Ruto. Let sensei go. Fine. Is there anything else? Naruto said calmly. Yes, I have informed the council of the prophecy. Jiraiya said, earning a groan from Naruto. Jiraiya, I gave you so many chances. You are so one-track minded that it astounds me. Tell me, Jiraiya, if you go so far to enforce a prophecy, isn't that counterproductive or self-fulfilling? If you follow this path, grandfather, I will make you regret it. Naruto said in a tone slightly more polite than a growl. Hiruzen decided to back up his student. Naruto, the great prophecies of the Toads are not to be taken lightly. Naruto laughed out loud. A child trained by the Toad Sage will bring a great revolution to the world of ninja. If guided toward the light, the new day will smile upon the world. If left in the shadow, the shinobi world will end in suffering and misery. Naruto let that sink in. Now, Jiraiya, I am the 3rd child you have claimed to be your prophesied one. Nagato, my father and myself. Nagato is still alive and living in Am. My father died to protect me, and this village and I would have been left in the shadow if it weren't for my own actions. Jiraiya stuttered, clearly not expecting Naruto to know this information. How? Tsunade face-palmed as Naruto laughed loudly and said, I have friends in high places. Is all that true, Lord Jiraiya? Shikaku asked. Jiraiya's head fell. Yes, that was the prophecy. I have reports that my previous student, Nagato, is dead though. He isn't dead. If you spent more time with your network and less time in brothels or peeping, maybe it would be more effective. For this council's consideration, Nagato led a group of revolutionaries in a megacorps. Danzo stepped right in it and stopped peace talks between Hanzo and the group called Akatsuki. Danzo was responsible for a betrayal that led to one of the head members of the organization dying, which made Nagato, a Rinnegan wielder, go mad. I don't know how many of civil wars followed, but Nagato killed Hanzo in single combat 4 years ago. Now, that student that Jiraiya left in the dark is leading a group of class missing ninjas in an attempt to capture the Biju. Shove your prophecy up your ass and leave me alone, you warty toad. Truth be told, Naruto regretted the way things were going with Jiraiya. He wanted his grandfather back, but he needed the man to let go of this prophecy bullshit. He will never forgive the toads, period. Unless Jiraiya let that go, he would continue opposing him. He looked around the council room, seeing his point was made. Even the Hokage looked shocked by the revelations, probably not hearing the full story from his desperate student. Finally, Hiruzen caught himself. Thank you for that information, Naruto. We will work to validate it, though we will need to discuss where you are getting your information from. I will inform the incoming Hokage when the time is right. Naruto responded quickly. He has not repeatedly broken my trust. I am still your Hokage, Naruto. Hiruzen said firmly, but he saw Naruto remaining silent. Fine, we will discuss this later. The final item to address was the approval of your marriage contract to Subaku no Temari. We have voted to approve this. With dual citizenship for Konoha and Suna, any children will be members of Konoha, and the other standard attachments like peace until the end of such a marriage or some egregious betrayal. Naruto scoffed, members of Konoha. Funny how that word sounds like property. Whatever, I am sick of kicking your butt in verbal debates. I will accept that for now if Suna will. The whole council winced at the jab, but Suna growled as she missed that bit of information. She would have to make sure Raza puts an escape clause in the contract. Suna decided to take the attention off of Naruto. Very well, the Senju clan is happy to hear our request has been accepted. I am sure Raza will be available for any necessary amendments and I will share the good news with him. Tsunade said before sitting back down and waiting for the damnable meeting to end. Set up. After the accursed council meeting the day prior, Naruto was in a foul mood. Luckily, he had two wonderful women to cheer him up and they came up with something that would be truly entertaining. He has just gotten back from making a reservation at the Golden Leaf, which was the first phase of the plan. Luckily, he was able to convince the owner to move some reservations around and he came up with a private booth on the balcony that provided a great nighttime view of the city. Phase 2 was in effect as he was finishing up a training session with Itachi. The guy was a brutal trainer, and he was also a ninjutsu and genjutsu genius. Naruto lamented the fact that he still couldn't perform many genjutsu despite his vastly superior chakra control. Naruto had to focus on high, B, and rank genjutsu, which were very hard to learn when he couldn't really put the basic genjutsus into practice. Naruto was in the cool-down phase as he was slowly dismissing his clones that were conducting various training exercises. As he was dismissing his clones, he did some calisthenics before meditating to collect his thoughts and focus the lessons learned from the day's training. He cracked his eyes open to see Itachi meditating alongside him with a peaceful look on his usually placid face. Itachi cracked an eye open as he sensed Naruto beginning to stir. Hey, sensei, I have something to tell you. The group of us splurged and want to take you to dinner at the Golden Leaf tomorrow at 6 p.m. It is formal attire, and you can't say no. Naruto said happily. Itachi smiled, that was nice of you. What is the occasion? He asked politely. Naruto had an excuse prepared. Well, sensei, you got our rookie team to the Chunin exam finals. Also, we wanted to give you a congratulations for your nomination as the 5th Hokage. Itachi's smile grew before it changed into a coy look. You know, Ruto, I think you provided more actual training than I did. Naruto waved him off. Nah, sensei, you let me lead the workouts and provided key pointers. You could have been like Kakashi and prevented us from doing anything. Then you brought in the other teams and made the rookies a true family. You deserve a small show of our growth. Itachi laughed lightly. Well, thank you Naruto. I will be there. Tell me, once I become the Hokage are you going to bust my balls like you do to Lord Third? Naruto chuckled. Nah, Itachi, unlike the old monkey you have never done anything to break my trust, or earn my ire. I think I can make this village and world a better place if I work alongside you. Itachi reached over and ruffled Naruto's hair. You know, Ruto, I sometimes feel guilty for feeling this close to you when I remained distant from my own brother for most of our lives. Naruto shrugged. For what it's worth, I appreciate our bond. You were busy and you were dragged into the deep end of the shinobi life when you were still a kid. You only got a chance to breathe when you became a Jonin sensei a couple months ago. It is not too late to make amends with the duck butt. Itachi frowned lightly at Naruto's statement. Sadly, I think it is. My brother is so torn between a sense of inherited superiority and a crippling inferiority complex. Naruto slugged Itachi on the shoulder. Dude, I literally have 3 distinct personalities living in my head, not to mention a biju. Nothing is beyond repair. Itachi smiled and grasped Naruto's shoulder before squeezing lightly. Thank you, Ruto. I will give it a try after the exams. For now, I am content to focus on you. Elsewhere, Shizune, Tsunade, Ino, Hinata, Samui, Temari, Sakura and Tenten were dragging Kurunai to the public baths after a girls-only training session. As they checked into the bathhouse, stripped their clothes and cleaned off before entering the baths, the girls were talking up Kurunai. Ino changed the conversation from training to the girls' favorite topic. So, Kurunai-sensei, do you have any suitors that have caught your attention? Tsunade scoffed. She isn't called the Ice Queen of Konoha for no reason. She has guys, nobles and daimyos chasing after her every day. Kurunai watched on helplessly as the talk of her love life escalated around her. I wasn't talking about guys chasing her, mama. I was talking about guys she actually is interested in. Ino shot back sharply. Temari jumped in. Alright, I can get behind this. Spill it, Kurunai. Who is your dream guy? Kurunai was about to respond when Hinata's voice cut in. I think Kurunai has a thing for Itachi-sensei. He is so dreamy, manly and since he joined our training, he has really toned out. Oh yeah. Since Lady Tsunade cured his illness, he has looked much, much tastier. Shizune added with a perverted giggle. Kurunai's head was twisting back and forth as she watched her students and friends freely discuss her love life. I mean, I have Ruto, but Itachi-senpai is up there on the most eligible list. Temari said with a far-off look. Samui made a slightly shy contribution. I think Lee is up there in the top tier since Ino changed his wardrobe. His body is literally chiseled from marble. Now that he is wearing proper clothes and that S-jacket, he is looking good. Tenten said looking directly at Samui. He still won't shut up about the flames of youth though. Sakura giggled. You can take the clothes off of the nut, but you can't take the nuttiness out of Lee. Not cool. Samui muttered. She had been spending quite a bit of time getting to know Lee recently. Once you get behind his mask, he is one of the most genuine guys ever with a heart of gold. Ah, somebody is smitten. Over Ruto already? Shizune asked, genuinely interested. Yeah, it was Ruto that pushed me toward Lee after he let me down easy. Temari and Ino are lucky girls. She said wistfully. Ah, thanks sweetie. I wouldn't mind sharing him with someone sweet as you, but I am not complaining about more Ruto time. Now, Hinata, what's going on with you and Gaara? Ino asked as she entered the bath of the hot springs. Hinata joined Ino and took a place next to Temari. Well, I am kind of like Samui. Ruto shot me down and it hurt really badly. He had been such a nice guy to me, and he did so much for my clan. Then, he pointed out Gaara and showed he is a real sweet guy, and he was right. He asked me out for a date after the Chunin exams end. This earned a round of coos and ahs from the girls. Temari smiled and hugged Hinata, smashing 2 pairs of growing bee together. I would love to have you in the family, Hinata. For what it is worth, he loves you like a kid sister. She tried to make sure the relationship with Naruto wouldn't end abruptly. Knowing from his memories of the past what his relationship with Hinata meant to him. At that moment, a crash was heard from the wall on the men's side of the hot springs. Tsunade scowled and jumped up onto the wall with her towel pulled over her chest to see Jiraiya giggling with a tiny trickle of blood. When Jiraiya saw Tsunade, consequences be damned, his head flew back and impacted the stone siding of the bath. Tsunade scowled, punched him hard in the balls and sealed him into a stasis scroll before she jumped back over to the women's bath. Alright, Pervert caught. I am going to lobotomize him to make sure he never remembers what he saw here. Tsunade said with a scowl. Ino perked up. Mama, why don't we hand him over to the girls at the Yamanaka clan? We can do some memory modification, maybe remove his perversion and possibly make him gay for a year or so. She was rubbing her hands together mischievously as dastardly ideas flitted through her mind and out of her mouth. All of the girls were in agreement, and the fixing of Jiraiya the perverted Toad Sannon began right there in the baths. With the perverts removed from the vicinity, the girls enjoyed the rest of their bath until 10:10 remembered the main reason they called for a girls' day. Kurenai-sensei, I wanted to tell you that Hinata almost forgot to tell you about the thank you gift we got for you. 10:10 said, looking to Hinata to take over. Oh yeah? Well, Team 8 and Team 9 wanted to thank you for training us and helping us reach the finals. We have made reservations at the Golden Leaf tomorrow at 6 p.m. Hinata said shyly. Ino chirped, and us girls bought you a nice fancy dress to wear. You are going to love it. Kurenai ed an eyebrow. I am flattered, girls. You didn't have to do that. Honestly, I don't know how useful I was in your training. It really seemed like Naruto, Itachi, Guy and Asuma did the most of it. PSH, you helped us girls a lot, Kurenai-sensei. It takes a woman with a woman's touch to train a proper kunoichi. You taught me genjutsu, positioning, tactics and how to be a proper support type kunoichi. Ino said boldly. Yeah, Kurenai-sensei, you taught me better chakra control, genjutsu and your taijutsu style, Hinata added. Although I mainly use the Juken, it was still good to know, and I was excited to expand my arsenal. Samui felt like she should join the praising. You are clearly a fine kunoichi, Kurenai. I have been impressed by your work ethic and you are doing extremely well in the joint workouts. Kurenai was blushing from the attention and praise, but the overload of praise had her partially subdued below the water and blowing bubbles. Thanks girls. I will be there. The next day at 5:30 p.m., Naruto showed up at Itachi's front door. He knocked on it and greeted Mikoto before letting her know that he was here to walk with Itachi to dinner. A couple minutes later, with some polite conversation, Itachi came to the front door dressed to the nines in a blue-black formal kimono with the Uchiha crest. His hair was tied into a man bun, and he was wearing formal sandals. Naruto Wolf whistled at him as they walked out of the Uchiha compound. Naruto chatted casually with his sensei as they walked through the town toward the Golden Leaf. They made it inside the restaurant and Naruto sat in the small, patio booth next to Itachi. Itachi found it odd that it was a two-person booth but decided to say nothing about it. That was when the Naruto went up in a puff of smoke and Itachi was truly perplexed. 15 minutes earlier, at Kurenai's apartment, the girls were helping Kurenai get ready. A knock at the door was heard and Naruto walked in carrying a dozen red roses with a card buried in the bouquet. He whistled in an impressed and not perverted manner when he saw Kurenai in her ruby red, spaghetti-strapped dress. He handed her the bouquet and held out an elbow for her. Kurenai gave him an amused look and shooed him out of the room. Kurenai picked the card and read it before the girls could stop her in time. To a crimson princess, your ruby eyes are like jewels from the skies, shining down and dispelling the lies. Lies that threatened to tear me apart. Your eyes glistened and stole my heart. To the beautiful lady, fair and true. Tonight I wish to extend an invite to you. An invite to eat and get to know. The one who appreciates and admires you so. Your not so secret admirer. Kurenai began stumbling over her words as the girls pushed her out of the room toward a waiting Naruto. With a devilish grin, Naruto took Kurenai's shoulder and disappeared in a forest green flash. It would be discovered later that the Hiraishin flashed green when Naruto was using his chakra and red when Kurama's chakra was infused. Kurenai appeared on the patio roof of the restaurant next to Itachi when Naruto quickly said something before disappearing. Your bill is paid for, enjoy. P.S. You two are too good for each other to not give this a shot. Kurenai looked with amusement at Itachi, who shrugged and shot a smile at Kurenai. He stood, took her hand in his and placed a K on the back of her hand. You look breathtakingly beautiful, Kurenai. It would be my honor for you to join me for dinner. Itachi said smoothly. Kurenai was blushing furiously over the whole situation, which made her look even more beautiful in the setting sun. Why yes, I would love to. Can you tell me if you wrote the poem? Itachi had an eyebrow with an amused smile on his face. He took the poem from Kurenai's fingertips and read it with a devious smile on his face. That is the work of Naruto. You wouldn't guess it, but he is quite the romantic. Although, he did an amazing job at describing my feelings. His look turned serious enough to show that he was actually interested. The two enjoyed a good dinner and Itachi was sure to splurge on one of the best bottles of wine the restaurant offered. They sat at the table, looking into each other's eyes and enjoying a delectable dinner. They ordered dessert and continued to prolong the date. They then took a walk through the town and Itachi shared a spot that Naruto shared with him. They shared their first K around midnight atop the 40H's head on the Hokage monument. Hokage's office, 1 week to finals. Hiruzen walked into his office to start the day and found a sealed letter on his desk. He called his Anbu and Bor inspected the letter before clearing it and handing it to the Hokage. Hiruzen cautiously opened the letter to read a disturbing message. Hokage, the snake is planning to strike again at the finals. This time he will bring his village. Rumors say that he found some more support. Be on your guard. I have attached enough barrier tags that you can use to protect your important zones. Use the Senju boy to protect the stadium. We will be watching. Best of luck. Your friendly neighborhood watch. Hiruzen looked up at his Anbu squad. Get all the clan heads in my office along with every Anbu captain. You have 1 hour. Ichiraku Ramen Restaurant. Naruto had taken time overnight to transform Tsuki's stand into a full-on restaurant. The original stand was placed in the back of a restaurant filled with identical tables made of Naruto's wood release. The other rookies found silverware, glasses, tablecloths and some decorations to fill out the restaurant. Chuji worked with his parents to provide stoves, ovens and other kitchen amenities. Naruto ordered enough ingredients for a week of non-stop cooking and soon had created menus for the tables along with some healthier options. Ayami and Tsuki showed up at their stand and were truly baffled. They looked around aimlessly for their stand, confused out of their minds and an inch away from panicking. Then, Naruto's group jumped out of their hiding spots and shouted, "Surprise!" Tsuki jumped out of his shoes and Ayami clutched a hand over her mouth. Naruto walked forward jingling a set of keys and handed them to Tsuki, who was a second away from passing out due to overstimulation. Look, old man, I know you haven't known us for very long. My mother used to love this restaurant and it is one of my favorites. We came together to get this ready for you and I hope you aren't upset. Naruto said in his traditional sheepish pose. Tsuki was stuttering, unable to form words, so Ayami repeated 2 simple words over and over again while crying tears of joy. Thank you. The group gave Tsuki and Ayami the tour of the new and improved Ichiraku's ramen. The two were overcome with grog throughout the tour and remained in a state of light shock for the whole day. Tsuki insisted on providing free meals to the group, as much as they could eat. Naturally, this started a ramen eating contest between Naruto, Gaara, Omoi, Chuji and Lee. 163 bowls of ramen later, Gaara, Omoi, Lee and Chuji were passed out with ramen noodles dribbling out of their mouths. Naruto was clutching an overfull stomach, but he was grinning victoriously. Morning of the Chunin exam finals. The rest of the 1-month intermission passed in a flash as the lively atmosphere around the Senju compound filled in any breaks in Naruto's training. Currently, the Senju compound was hosting his extended family from Wave, the Sabakis, Team Yugito, Darui, Mabui, damn that woman was fine, and Naruto really wished he got to know her in his previous life, Kinji, Madame Shijimi, Kinji's daughter Karui, the Wind Daimyo and his wife and Kiyomi to round things off. Shadow clones of Naruto ran everywhere for the past 3 weeks preparing meals, making sure the guests had everything they needed, dodging glomming attacks from Kiyomi and Karui and so much more. It was refreshing to see the Senju compound bustling with so much life. It was honestly distracting from the exams, but he wasn't too worried about that. He had been more worried about fulfilling the sealing jobs given to him by the Hokage after the old monkey took his threats of invasion seriously. Naruto noticed the Jonin and Anbu patrols increasing around the village, and he had upgraded village security as much as he reasonably could. With the plan to debut his Mokuton bloodline in the exams, Naruto created extra defenses around the village, which drew far more unwanted attention than he normally received. He put up with it in order to make sure that he mitigated as much damage as possible for the sake of his friends and their families. Most of his close family knew about Mokuton already, but I was keenly interested in this ability, and he was upset that he only recently found out. The fourth Raikage was more disappointed than ever that Samui's seduction mission had failed, but after speaking to Naruto at length he saw the futility in the underhanded attempt. The boy was a human lie detector, incredibly genuine and honestly funny to be around. I couldn't remember the last time he had laughed so much or had so much fun. Flashback, 2 days ago. I had arrived the previous night and received a generous greeting at the front gates and an invitation to stay at the Senju compound. He readily accepted the invitation and was overjoyed to hear that Naruto would be hosting one of his infamous CrossFit sessions the following morning. After a long night of mingling and drinking, I went to sleep dreaming of a new kind of workout. I dragged Mabui and Darui out of bed for the 6 a.m. CrossFit workout. He was surprised to see nearly 50 people attending the workout, and he was even more surprised to see Naruto leading the whole thing. With names like Tsunade, Might Guy, Asuma Sarutobi and Itachi Uchiha, I had presumed that one of them would be leading the workout. He joined the morning calisthenic exercises and warm-up. The usually large training ground felt cramped with this number of people. As Naruto stood to address the group, he paid rapt attention to the boy. Alright everyone, welcome to CrossFit this morning. Since we have a couple special guests in attendance, I wanted to do something special. Fire Lord Kinji, Lord Raikage, Darui of the Black Lightning, Mabui of the Milk Chocolate and everyone else, welcome to the Filthy 50. I laughed as he heard the groans from those in attendance and he wondered what the big deal was. Then, he saw Naruto weave through hand signs and place his hand on a seal array. Suddenly, I found himself face first on the ground as the 300 pounds he carried on each wrist in the form of his golden wrist braces dragged him to the ground. The group struggled mightily to suppress their laughter, but they lasted mere seconds before the whole CrossFit group broke out into guffaws. What did you do, Senju? I groaned out. My apologies, Lord Raikage. I thought those wrist weights would be chakra-based. I activated the chakra null zone, which disables all use of chakra. Without your natural chakra reinforcement, that much weight is unmanageable. Naruto explained, struggling to suppress his laughter as the hulking man dug his face out of the ground and Mabui went over to help him remove the wrist weights. I stood up and shook his arms out before fixing a fiery glare on Naruto. Well, a little warning next time. Why disable the use of chakra? Naruto broke into an abbreviated version on the reasoning behind disabling chakra. He also provided I with some basic wrist and ankle weights since I insisted on at least matching what the advanced members were wearing. The advanced members wore a 50-pound vest with 10 pounds on each limb. Naruto then explained the Filthy 50 to the group and had everyone find a teammate. I insisted on being Naruto's teammate, which Naruto readily agreed to. I watched with interest as the young blonde panted and sweat through the workout, finishing the Filthy 50 in 10 minutes and 47 seconds. I was bouncing like a kid on crack candy for his turn to perform the workout. Naruto cast a knowing grin in his direction and waited until it was time for the second group. A panting Darui came over and tried to offer a word of caution to I, but the Raikage waved him off and said he didn't need to listen to a lazy sissy. Daru's usually lazy face took on a maniacal grin and he moved over with Mabui to join the Raikage's starting station for a front row seat to the show. I started the workout at a dead sprint, dedicated to living up to his lure of fastest man alive. Unfortunately for him, that was the pitfall of this workout, and he was not used to being separated from his chakra. I's muscles burned like never before and his lungs heaved trying to take in the required oxygen as he began his final workout as the clock struck 10 minutes. I's eyes lit up with a fiery determination as he heard Naruto call out, 50 burpees and you're done. I pushed himself past the breaking point as he blurred from a jump clap to a prone position and back to a jump clap. I's vision was getting blurry due to the lack of oxygen to the brain and the rapidly changing elevation as he continued through the exercise. Finally, he heard Naruto call out 50 and his whole world went black. I, for the first time since his Genin days, passed out from a workout. The Raikage came to a minute later with an amused-looking Tsunade performing a medical jutsu on him outside of the chakra null zone. Quite the workout, huh? Tsunade said with a shit-eating grin on her face. I slapped one of his massive hands over his face. Holy shit, your brat is evil. Tsunade bellowed out a laugh, That is what everyone says right after his workouts. Then they come back for more. Look at those genin. Those genin are better prepared than anyone from our generation, and we were brought up in the warring days. Still lying on his back, rotated his head and watched the group finish up their workouts with shouts of encouragement coming from their teammates and those that already finished. He couldn't stop a smile from emerging on his face. That kid is something else, Sunad. To think about how much he has already changed our world. Sunad got a far-off look in her eyes and a big smile on her face. I know, I am proud of him. Why does my body feel so sore already? I asked randomly. Haha, because you are not used to being separated from your chakra. When I was explaining the chakra circulatory system to him, he came up with this bright idea. It builds up the natural muscle and strength of the body tens of times faster than your standard workout with chakra. Then, when your chakra returns and accelerates the body's healing, you get all of the bonuses with an enhanced healing rate. It also boosts yang chakra like crazy for some reason. Sunad explained. No shit, I said in amazement. How much would it cost to have the kid come to Kumo and install some of these null zones? An S rank per zone. Sunad answered with money symbols in her eyes. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That was crazy expensive, but if it produced such good results then it would be worth it. And how much for the seals that Samui and Omoi showed me? $1,000 per set. Sunad answered right away before adding. With a $2,000 trip charge. I laughed heartily. What do you do with all that money? Sunad looked lost in thought before she answered. Let's see, we fund a total of 24 orphanages that house over 400 children, we have a couple charities that help out the less fortunate, we have a spy network for the neighborhood watch, we have 2 medical research divisions, we have a female clothing business, we have an inter-country fuinjutsu business and a couple other things I am sure I am forgetting. Ai's jaw hung open and he looked up at Sunad. Why? Because we have the power and resources to do so. Naruto drove me to help as many people as we could. Once the money from his seals started pouring in, we worked with Kinji, Hoto and Kaisa to help as many people as we could. How? I asked in further astonishment. Sunad chuckled, the shadow clone jutsu powered by the endless chakra of the Kyuubi and a will to use it. Are you sure I can't get your kid to marry someone from Kumo? Haha, sorry Naruto is dead set on only marrying for love and he already has 2 women that will love him forever. He already feels guilty enough for asking them to share and I support his decisions in that regard. Sunad answered softly. Damn, Samui was really broken up when he ended things. I said, slightly pouting. Yeah, she is a great girl. If there were any girl that stood a chance at breaking into Naruto's heart, she would have been the next in line. I perked up at that, but Sunad simply shook her head in the negative. They rejoined the group and I participated in the follow-on meditation and chakra exercises, only to be further impressed by the nature of Naruto's training methods. End of flashback. I shook his head as he remembered falling face first into the ground and then passing out during a workout. He had snagged a Naruto clone and picked its brain about workout methods, philosophies, chakra reinforcement and other topics that interested the fitness enthusiast. He would need to make some changes to his bodybuilding regimen when he returned to Kumo. I was determined to stay in the Senju's good graces, and he was excited to see his genin and Naruto perform in the finals. The Fire Lord Kinji had enjoyed his stay in Konoha, despite the drab council meeting that occurred the previous night. He made Itachi the official 5th Hokage of Konoha, which was going to be announced today. He couldn't help a frown from spreading over his face as he remembered the disappointments of 2 men that had previously held his trust. Jiraiya and Hiruzen simply refused to see reason and it caused him a fairly sizable headache. Kinji had to get forceful with the 2 when they complained about Naruto not prioritizing the needs of Konoha. He threatened to simply relieve Naruto of his Hishiate and let him move to another country or village to simply shut him up. He made it clear to the pair that Naruto held more of Kinji's trust than the 2 of them combined. He also let the damnable council know that as well. Oh well, the worst of it would be over after today unless Naruto's warning came to pass. Naruto had told Kinji about the high probability of an invasion from the Snake Sannin. Kinji had brought the Guardian 12 and some of his best samurai just in case. He reviewed the defensive measures that Konoha had taken with Shikaku Nara, Hiruzen and Itachi and was impressed by the level of preparedness. He could only hope that things didn't escalate too badly. Tsunade had run herself ragged playing host to so many people in her family's compound. Despite the exhaustion, it was great for her to see the Senju compound bustling with life once again. On top of playing host, she had secretly prepared the hospital for the invasion. The hospital had a double-layered barrier defense prepared and she had an Anbu squad on standby to lock the place down in the event of an invasion. The double layer would allow them to take in casualties without letting enemy shinobi enter, which was a relief. As she walked to the stadium, she enjoyed the company of her important guests and all the stunned looks they garnered. She was proud of her grandson and wanted him to own the day. Sure, she had bet sizable money on each of the matches, and she was excited to cash in her winnings, but she wanted him to shine like the sun in his debut to the world. She would be attending the event with Kinji and Hoto from the daimyo's box and she would be on standby for any serious casualties during the finals. She took advantage of the VIP status and used the in-booth betting station to place her gambling money on a combination bet for Gaara, Shino and Naruto to win. The triple bet gave her 52 to 1 odd and she placed $1 million down without thinking twice about it. Ino was sad that she wasn't able to stand by Naruto's side in the finals of the Companion. Seeing Kurotsuki scowl at her made her remember how close she came to being maimed by the vindictive lava and sent a shiver of fear down her spine. If it weren't for her Naruto's quick actions, she would have, no, she couldn't think about it. The fact was that she had her soulmate and so long as he was around, she would be safe. As she focused on her love for the sun-kissed blonde, a familiar warmth encompassed her and quelled the fear that had started to take root. So, what you think, Shika? Who is going to bring this home? Ino asked in an attempt to distract herself. Shikamaru had noticed the increased security and tension around the village. He had taken mental notes of the looks and weariness on his father's face as well as the rest of the Jonin. He had a tingle at the back of his brain that told him something wasn't right. He had been distracted by scanning his environment and putting his super brain to use. Ino's question startled him out of his observation, and he responded. It's too troublesome to speculate, Ino. I am pretty sure I know who will win the first round fight, but after that things will get crazy. Mentally he added, if we even get that far. TSK, you're no fun. What do you think, Chuji? Ino shifted targets. I think the safe bet is Naruto. After seeing how he one-shot the Iwa team, it is safe to say that he would win if he took the fight seriously. Chuji said before downing the last of his trail mix. Kiba scooted closer and joined the conversation. If Naruto took this seriously, my mom said that he could destroy the stadium. I know everyone is strong, but that is just ridiculous. Leaving the Genin's conversation and moving to the cage booth, we find Raza, I and Hiruzen chatting amiably about Naruto's training sessions. The talks halted abruptly when Onoki entered with his two bodyguards. One was Akatsuki, a mountain of a man that looked like a giant from some kid's cartoon with that big-ass goofy nose in the center of his round face. The other guard was cloaked and masked in the typical uniform of a golem officer. Welcome, Onoki, it is good to see an old friend one last time as the Hokage. Hiruzen said cheerfully. Onoki scoffed, hello old monkey, why did you let the youngsters depose you? Now I am left alone to represent the old school. His tone was unusually playful, as if he were happy about something. Hiruzen shrugged, it was time for this old monkey to return to his tree and enjoy the quiet life. Maybe you could join me for a stiff drink and some peeping on a resort beach. Onoki trickled blood from his nose, to the amusement of the other cage. You know, that doesn't sound too bad. Let's see how today goes before I give you an answer. Onoki turned his attention to the other cage and gave them a small, brief nod. Raza, long time no see. Raza suppressed his feelings and replied in a stoic tone. Onoki, good to see you are still in good health. I simply nodded as a return of the greeting. Onoki put his hands on his belt. Well, I received this gift a while back that took away my back pain. Is it just me or are life-changing seals popping up all over the elemental nations? I, knowing who likely provided that gift, scoffed loudly. I think all our spies have reported an infuriating inability to gather information from each of our nations. It almost seems like the Watch wants everyone to just mind their own business. Hiruzen nodded wearily, yes, truly vexing, that organization. I have tried for several years and spent millions of dollars trying to discover the identity of that organization. Raza laughed internally, it was so obvious, and this old monkey was so blind. Well, I for one am happy for the help. Since our purge, I have never felt safer in my village. Onoki scowled at that. Yes, but unlike the rest of us it seems Suna got some extra gifts. Tell me, Lord Kazekage, how did Wind Country suddenly gain so many oases? I find it astonishing that there was so much water in the desert. A family friend, was Raza's simple reply. We can continue our conversation during the matches. I believe it is time to give the starting address. Hiruzen said before standing and walking toward the railing of the balcony. The stadium fell silent as Hiruzen's image came upon the big screen. Cameramen around the stadium focused in on the Hokage's form and the Hokage projected his voice with chakra. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the Konoha-Chunin exam finals. Today we have representatives from 4 of the Great 5 in attendance and there are a number of daimyos and influential dignitaries from around the nations in attendance. To our visitors, I open my arms to you and say welcome to Konoha. To my nation I say thank you for letting me serve you over the past 58 years. My time as the Hokage has spanned from the Second Shinobi War to present and it is with great joy and pride that I announce my successor to you today. As the seasons change, new leaves bud and bring life, color and prosperity to the great tree. The old leaves wither and fall to the ground to become nourishment for new life to flourish on the great tree. I am an old leaf, in case you were wondering, and I wish to enjoy my swaying fall from the heights of our great tree. In my place, a promising new youth has appeared and caused a flourishing of new life. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Itachi Uchiha, the 5th Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato. Itachi stepped forward wearing the full Hokage robe and hat with the kanji for 5th Hokage. He wore the Uchiha crest on his right lapel and the signal of Konoha on his left lapel. The back of his robe was bathed in red flames at the bottom with the kanji for 5th on the center of his back. Itachi always preferred a straightforward approach and had no need for elaborate nicknames. Itachi spread his arms and called for silence, which followed shortly thereafter. Thank you for the warm welcome. I would like to take a minute to thank Hiruzen Sarutobi for his dedicated service to Konoha and the Land of Fire. He was truly an amazing leader that kept the wall of fire burning brightly and kept Konoha moving down the right path. Itachi paused and let the audience cheer for a couple minutes. Now today, we are all present to see the new leaves that have budded on our great tree as well as those from other nations. I look forward to a stunning display of skill and determination that we expect out of Chunin representing the great villages. Without further ado, let us commence the finals. Genma, if you would. Genma took over and made a show of introducing the finalists. He explained the rules of the fights, which were to be one-on-one, no-holds-barred matches. The winner would be determined by fatality, knockout, surrender or if Genma determines a compor is no longer fit to fight. After confirming that the finalists understood the rules, he called for Gaara and Mitsuki to remain on the field. Gaara received multiple slaps on the shoulder, pats on the back and AK on the cheek from Hinata for good luck. There were catcalls around the stadium and an enraged-looking Hiashi from the display, but the show must go on, as they say. Genma took the fighters to the center of the arena, which was a 100-meter in diameter circle speckled with a lake, a clove of trees, some boulders and a flat area in the center. Genma started the match to a magnificent roar from the crowd as the Iwa and Suna Genin commenced their fight. Mitsuki immediately enveloped himself in steel and layered earth armor on top of it. Gaara simply stood immobile with his arms crossed as he sent the cork of his gourd flying at Mitsuki where it pinged harmlessly off of his armor. Mitsuki took offense to the gesture and darted forward in an attempt to slam his fist into Gaara. Gaara had no need to move, no need to free his hands and no need to exert himself. Mitsuki was strong and resilient, but he was far too slow to bypass Gaara's sand. After making a mockery of the Iwa Genin for a couple minutes, Gaara finished it off with an over-exaggerated yawn. Are you done yet? He taunted, which earned laughs from the crowd and a scowl from Mitsuki. Mitsuki was in a bind, his whole specialty was reinforcement techniques and he had very little ninjutsu prowess to back it up. He usually counted on slugging it out with his opponents and relying on his impenetrable armor to outlast them. It was clear that his tactic wasn't going to work against this opponent. Very well, it is my turn. Gaara said monotonously as he began to spin in a rhythmic dance. Sand flowed around him and followed every movement of his hands and arms as Gaara used his enhanced magnet release to control the sands. He began making circular throwing motions with each of his arms. Each motion produced a sand shuriken that was the size of a standard Fuma shuriken. Mitsuki began dodging the projectiles, but they just kept coming one after another. When the first one impacted, it hit with enough forces to draw blood through 2 sets of his armor. Gaara, seeing his first attack landed, increased the speed of his spinning dance and sent a volley of over 40 sand shurikens directly at the tumbling Mitsuki. Mitsuki rolled with the momentum and attempted to dodge the volley, but it was futile. After dodging a few of the shuriken, he took 10 of them to his chest one after another. Gaara has halted his spin to observe the results of his attack and he noticed Hinata clapping in the finalists' box for his display. Gaara's dance originated from Hinata's kata, and he applied the principles of the Hyugas, Kaiten, to enhance his control of the sand. As the dust cleared, Mitsuki was back on his 2 feet, but blood was trickling out from underneath his earthen armor. One of the shuriken had impacted his face and he was bleeding for a sizable gash on his left cheek. The Iwa Genin licked the blood and spat it onto the floor before taking a defensive stance. Gaara simply aired an eyebrow at his opponent. Are you a glutton for punishment? I have clearly demonstrated the ability to wound you and you cannot bypass my defenses. I would suggest surrendering, Gaara said in his usual monotone. In his head, Shukaku was howling in laughter at the pathetic look of defiance on the Iwa Genin's face. Shut up, an Iwa shinobi never gives up, no matter the odds. Mitsuki yelled, sounding more like a petulant child than a battle-hardened warrior. Very well, I will end this, Gaara said as he stomped the ground. As Gaara's foot impacted the ground, globules of sand rose from all over the arena and responded to his call. Like iron responding to a magnet, the sand resonated with Gaara's chakra and swirled around him. Gaara bent low and raised both hands above his head while calling out, Great Sand Waterfall. A tidal wave of sand spanning nearly half of the stadium rose from Gaara's position and towered over Mitsuki. The Iwa Genin braced for impact knowing that he couldn't outrun or dodge the wave of sand. A colossal roar echoed as the sand tidal wave crashed into Mitsuki's position and continued forward in a powerful slam into the wall. The sand slackened enough to show Mitsuki struggling to his feet with his armor almost completely destroyed. Gaara cupped both of his hands before bringing them together in a clinching motion. As he did this, the sand responded and formed a headless coffin around Mitsuki. Surrender, Gaara said plainly. Never, Mitsuki spat defiantly. Gaara looked at Genma, who was munching on a senbon. Proctor, are you going to call the match? Gaara held his hands in the clinched position as Genma walked slowly over the newly created sand dune to where Mitsuki was being held. Genma rapped his knuckles on the hardened sand and whistled before he announced the victor. Winner by immobilization, Subaku no Gaara. In the cage's box, Raza was clapping proudly for his son's display of strength. Behind him, Chio and Pakura clapped politely as well. I gave a nod of approval. Your child displayed an amazing control over the sand, Raza. That was truly impressive. Yes, it has been a pleasure to work with Gaara over the last month, Lord Kazekage. He has a lot of untapped potential. Itachi added from his Hokage seat. Hiruzen, seated at Itachi's right, added, Raza, how did you train up his control of magnet release so much at a young age? I dare say his control almost rivals your own. Raza chuckled, you should know the answer to your own question, Hiruzen. My son's best friend is Naruto and they have been training together since they were 6. Tsunade's chakra control technique allowed him to harness the power of his magnet release along with his earth affinity. I barked out a laugh, that kid has his fingers in everyone's pie. Truly was a remarkable display, I think there is no doubt he is fit to be Chunin. A round of concurring statements later had Gaara marked as a show-in for Chunin. Onoki decided to get some information. Has the Senju boy helped everyone except Iwa? Don't take it personally, Lord Tsuchikage. He asked if it would be appropriate to open communications with you, but we were concerned about the grudge your village bears towards the boy. Your granddaughter reaffirmed our decision during the preliminaries, Itachi said calmly. Onoki scoffed, it was a fight. She was simply going to finish her opponent off before the Senju boy intervened. I still expect compensation for that offense. Raza scowled, that opponent is going to be a sister wife to my daughter. I was watching the fight, Tsuchikage. There was no need to further incapacitate her opponent, and she looked right at Naruto before attempting her jutsu. Your teams also referred to him as demon on multiple occasions. Do not think such petty obfuscation will deceive us. As the cages engaged in a tense battle of words, Gaara returned to the contestants' box and got a hug from an excited Hinata. Gaara took her hand and placed AK on the backside of her hand before wishing her good luck in her fight. Karui and Hinata made their way down to the stadium floor for their fight. Everyone was interested in the outcome of this fight because it could go either way. Hinata took her place across from Karui and saw that the usually quiet Hyuga clan had started a wave. The wave wrapped around the stadium and made Hinata giggle. She was so happy that her clan had changed so much for the better. Genma slashed his hand down and started the fight. Karui drew her katana and dashed forward. Hinata unsealed her bow and dashed backward. Hinata repeated this process while loosing one arrow after another with precision accuracy to the roars of the crowd. Karui could keep up with the arrows and used her sword to block the arrows she couldn't dodge. The relentless attacks stopped her from closing the distance and using her sword to end the fight. Karui sheathed her sword and weaved through hand signs while still attempting to close the distance with Hinata. Hinata saw the change and launched a triplicate of stun arrows at Karui. The Hyuga clan was watching the new fighting style with looks of anticipation mixed with pride. This was the Hyuga clan's statement to the world that you could no longer predict what a Hyuga was going to do. Hinata's graceful dance around the battlefield made the clan, Hanabi and Hiashi, swell with pride, despite the fact that she hadn't landed a decisive shot yet. Hiashi saw the technique Hinata was about to use, one of the first true techniques that the clan had developed. With use of the Byakugan and with predictive ability, 3 arrows were shot simultaneously at 3 of the most likely vectors. It would be nearly impossible for an unsuspecting opponent to dodge. Karui finished her hand signs and called out, "Lightning style, lightning ball," as Hinata loosed her 3 arrows. The ball of lightning was closing the distance on Hinata when one of the stun arrows nailed Karui in her right thigh. The lapse in concentration caused the lightning technique to dissipate and Karui tumbled to the ground on her numb leg. The stun arrow used condensed chakra to overload the tenketsu in the region around the point of impact. Much like the Juken, it injects the user's chakra into the adversary's chakra system to disable the flow of chakra, which is why the Byakugan is necessary for this technique. Hinata saw Karui stumble, and she dashed forward, intent on using her bow as a close-range weapon. Karui recovered in time to block a downward slash of Hinata's bow with her katana, but she wasn't ready for Hinata to slide her blade into the arrow catch and twist. Karui was disarmed and Hinata dropped her bow before she dropped into the Juken stance and said, "You are within range of my divination, 8 trigrams 64 palms." Karui, recently disarmed and lacking a firm foundation, took the full force of the speedy and accurate Juken attack. Hinata's technique ended with a dual, open palm Juken strike to the chest and abdomen that sent Karui flying backward with blood dribbling from her chin. Before Genma even called the match, Hinata had dashed over and began reopening Karu's important tenketsu. Genma called the match and medics joined Hinata on the field. After a minute, Hinata informed Shizune that she had opened most of the important tenketsu. The medics took Karui to the infirmary and Shizune took over her case in an attempt to get her battle ready in case the invasion happens. In the Hyuga section, loud cheers were heard, and many clan members were congratulating Hiashi. The camera panned on a rowdy band of Hyugas that were throwing one of their children into the sky in celebration. It amazed many in the crowd to see the noble Hyuga clan acting in such a manner, but almost everyone cracked a smile at the change. Tsunade was pointing and laughing at the display alongside Kinji, who couldn't believe the difference a year without the caged bird seal made. In the cage's box, I was clapping politely at the display. Let me guess, this was Naruto's doing too. Itachi chuckled lightly as Hiruzen responded. Yes, he created an alternate Dujutsu protection method and was able to free the clan of their seals after the massacre. The surviving branch family accepted Naruto's terms of forgiveness for Hiashi, Hinata and Hanabi. It was their price for being freed from the cursed seal. Raza smiled proudly at the contestant's box. You may not like his father, Onoki, but you cannot deny that the boy is doing good things for the world. Not for my country. Onoki hissed under his breath. Itachi ignored the Tsuchikage and posed his question. Was that enough of a display for a promotion to Chunin? I nodded, I think so, but I would like to see her fight once more. She used her new techniques very well against a Kenjutsu user, was keenly aware of her battlefield positioning, and she struck with lethal efficiency when the opening presented itself. Raza agreed with she is off to a great start, and I would be tempted to promote her from that display alone, but I would also like to see more. Itachi concurred, very well, I will mark her as a favorable recommendation, and we will wait for her next fight. Onoki merely grunted at Itachi. Back in the arena, Genma projected his voice, will Shino Aburame and Macky Kamizura please come to the arena for your match? Naruto walked into the stairwell with Shino after letting Macky pass. Alright Shino, I don't want you using your Senjutsu hive yet since we haven't tested it. Feel free to use the Biju bugs though. Shino put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, thank you, Naruto. I truly appreciate all the help you have given my family and clan. I am excited to see what we can do with your summons when this is all over. Naruto clasped Shino's forearm, just go win this thing and we will talk about that later. Good luck. Shino walked calmly into the arena and stared down one of his clan's greatest rivals. The Kamizura clan hated the Aburame because the Aburame nearly wiped out the clan during the Second and Third Wars. Now, it was time to settle this grudge match with international attention. Shibi saw his son walking forward and he began vibrating with excitement as his hive resonated with his emotions. Genma started the fight and immediately the two bug users poured insects out of their sleeves. The mid-air fight both disgusted and awed the audience as the initial clash of hives looked like a horde of mosquitoes flying around the arena. Each individual bug was winning or losing a battle that would contribute to the overall outcome of the bug war. Through the cloud of bugs, Macky saw Shino weaving through hand signs before he stomped on the ground and called out, Earth-style, muddy labyrinth. From Shino's foot, the ground began turning to mud and walls erected around Macky. The walls rose nearly 15 feet in height and locked her in place. Macky panicked and wanted to jump while the ground was still solid, so she bounced from wall to wall and made it to the top of the earthen outgrowth as she left her bees to finish the fight. When Macky made it to the top, she knew that something was wrong. Flying around above the walls were dozens of red beetles. These bugs were much bigger, roughly 5 times bigger, than a standard Kikaichu, and they were twice the size of the Kamizura bees. Macky unleashed half of her remaining hive to counter the threat, but to her horror she saw the beetles tear through her bees and fly towards her. Shino, watching from atop one of the mud walls, saw his insects in range and sent the command to his bugs. The Biju bugs, as Naruto dubbed them, were formed from a colony that Naruto let form while he was practicing with Kurama's chakra. After many attempts, a queen finally survived the saturation of Biju chakra. The queen tripled in size and began laying red eggs. These red eggs developed into rapidly maturing beetles that had a 48-hour lifespan. As the queen took in more of Kurama's chakra, the beetles developed new abilities. One of the new abilities was the increased pincer size, which made him a physical assault type bug. The second thing was a hardened carapace and wings that made him incredibly durable as well as fire resistant. Finally, Shino found out that the beetles could detonate themselves. They naturally did this upon the death, which made them hard to manage, and it made their habitat quite fickle. However, once the queen understood this, the beetles would leave the hive and detonate before the natural end came. Now, Shino harvested the hive, and they reside in a gourd underneath his cloak that has plants infused with Kurama's chakra. The queen sent the older bugs to head Shino's call, and now the world was about to see the newly improved Aburame clan. As 12 beetles closed within 5 feet of Macky, they glowed a brilliant red before they each detonated with the power of a medium-yield explosive tag. The explosions that surrounded the Kamizura immediately killed the bees and created a dust cloud atop the earthen walls. Onoki clenched his fists tightly enough to draw blood as Konoha displayed yet another remarkable innovation. His decision had been reaffirmed. The Senju boy needed to die. He watched his kunoiki from one of Iwa's most prominent clans collapse to the ground, smoking from multiple burns on her body. To make matters worse, his shinobi are being embarrassed one after another on live television, and his granddaughter had to fight the hardest opponent of them all. Onoki looked at his watch and realized that he needed to stall for time since the initial matches had progressed too quickly. TSK, yet another disappointment from my village. Hokage, I need to use the restroom and I believe there are many in the audience that would need the same. Onoki said just above a growl. Very well, Lord Tsuchikage. I will call for a 10-minute intermission. Will that be enough time for you to use the restroom, or do you need to sit? Itachi asked in his usual monotone. This drew snickers from the cages and the guards, even the masked Iwa guard. Onoki didn't even dignify that with an answer, so Itachi called a 10-minute intermission. Tsunade had money signs and hearts coming from her eyes as she looked adoringly at Naruto. All the brat had to do was win and she would have enough gambling money to last a couple years, even with her luck. Meanwhile, Kinji was sharing his frustrations with Hoto. Yes, it is most unfortunate that Naruto has already declared his love and future wives. I am close to the boy, and he didn't even take my daughter on a date. Kinji said. Hoto smirked, at least his niece had gotten a date. Well, I have not given up hope. Kiyomi said that she is sure to win his heart in time. Kinji laughed heartily. Ho ho ho, Hoto, have you not seen the stubborn streak in that boy? Not to mention the loyalty he displays to those he loves. I would not hold my breath if I were you. Hoto frowned at that, knowing the words to be true. He turned his frown into a smirk. I will simply give him escort missions whenever Kiyomi wishes to travel. Given enough time, surely, he will find room in his heart for my lovely niece. Tsunade had recovered from her thoughts of future winnings and was listening in. I don't think so, Hoto, but I won't stop you from trying. The Senju clan will be more than happy to take your money though. Ho ho ho, Tsunade, you are too funny. Tell me, princess, is there a man in your life? Kinji asked while eyeing her closely. Not really, I am more focused on my career and re-establishing my clan. Tsunade said despite her blush. I do believe the lady doth protest too much. Kinji said, trying to prod more information out of the Senju clan head. Oh, shut up and drink, Kinji. Tsunade huffed before she downed a saucer of sake. She immediately purged it from her system since Naruto hadn't given her the all clear yet. In the contestants' box, Naruto was trying to focus and spread his senses around the arena. The number of people made it very difficult to distinguish individual chakra signatures and there were too many emotions to sort through. He huffed. No, he would need to go fully into Sage mode if he wanted to get any valuable information. Unfortunately, his friends wouldn't leave him well enough alone during the break. Lucky, Samui muttered under her breath, looking back toward the booth to see Temari making out with Naruto. Her spirits were lifted when Lee's voice sounded out from the rest of the crowd as he cheered her on. A silly smile cracked its way onto her face, and she shook her head when thinking about the fiery passion of that silly man. It contrasted so uniquely with her own cool personality. The crowd cheered like mad as the intermission came to an end and the two beautiful blonde kunoiki squared off in the arena. Genma took his place as the two kunoikis drew their weapons of choice. Samui's katana began to glow with lightning chakra and Temari held up two decorated sensu, Japanese-style handheld fans. They were her mother's war fans and Naruto had used chakra engraving to enhance their control over the wind element. Temari took a stance and flipped both fans open as Samui took a stance that indicated she was about to dash and close the distance. Begin. Genma shouted before jumping back and giving the two kunoiki the space they needed to fight. Where is your war fan? It is strange seeing you without it. And what good are those two little fans? Samui asked as she surged more lightning through her body and onto her sword. Temari smirked at her opponent. Unlike with Ruto, in this case bigger doesn't mean better. Naruto was disturbed from his attempt to enter Sage mode by Temari's impromptu innuendo. Samui blushed profusely. Temari, everyone can hear us. Temari blushed tomato red before she decided to throw caution to the wind. So what? I am proud of my man. You tell him, girlfriend. Ino had risen to her feet and shouted to provide support to her future sister wife. Naruto was sputtering as his friends all laughed at the incredibly awkward situation. His previous focus was shattered, and he could no longer hold it together. He ran to the railing, gripped it and shouted down to one of his soulmates. Mari, that's all well and good, but could you keep our private life private please? I love you too, now you two beautiful ladies fight it out and show everyone what kick-ass kunoikis can do. The stadium audience was laughing uproariously at the comical situation and the camera crew was panning back and forth between Temari and Naruto. Ino's temporary spurt of confidence resided and now she had her head buried between her knees as the rookies that didn't make it to the finals ribbed her endlessly. Oh, Ino. How come you never shared the size of Naruto's sword? Sakura said through a giggling fit. Yosh. Naruto is most youthful, and his flames of youth burn brightly and proudly for everyone to see. Lee shouted, not understanding the word games that were played. Neji face-palmed, clearly ashamed of his teammates' obliviousness while 10-10 was bent over laughing. Yes, Lee, his flame is so big everyone can see it. She started slapping her knee as the last bit of her professionalism faded. On the arena's outer walls, Jiraiya was giggling profusely and scribbling every detail into his notebook. As he determined what to write next, the eraser of his pencil rubbed to relieve an itch from the new scar on his head. He couldn't remember what had caused that scar, but whenever he had a perverted urge recently, the scar started itching. Back in the stadium, the two blondes' blushes had faded, and they remembered that it was time for them to fight it out. As Samui dashed forward, Temari swiped one of her fans forward and Samui noticed a blade of wind coming directly for her chest. She maneuvered her sword to intercept the wind blade and she noticed that the lightning nearly crackled out of existence when the wind blade impacted the sword. After blocking the first one, a cat-and-mouse game began, much like Hinata's match and strategy from before. Samui had to keep recharging the lightning chakra to her sword as the wind blades threatened to snuff out the circuit that she had created. She was starting to feel the drain on her chakra reserves and knew that she needed to change her strategy. She took some kunai out of her pouch and began trying to answer the ranged attacks. The weapons were deflected and scattered as Temari danced and dodged with the wind. It wasn't a perfect setup, but it would have to do. She had used her first brace of shuriken and half of her kunai, so it was now or never. Samui weaved through some hand seals and called out, lightning style, lightning web, before she shot a thick bolt of light blue lightning at the closest kunai. As it impacted the kunai, jolts of lightning began sparking to life in between the metal scattered on the ground. Temari took a shot of lightning to her right leg, which disrupted her dance and temporarily made her fall to one knee. Samui saw the opportunity created by her jutsu and she darted forward at her top speed to claim her win. Temari saw Samui darting forward again, and she funneled as much wind chakra to her sensu fans until a white, translucent aura surrounded both of them. She called out, futon, dual sickle weasel funnels and twin horizontal twisters of wind shot out of Temari's fans and caught Samui mid-dash. The wind funnels were a combination of blunt force wind with blades of wind mixed in and they effectively countered Samui's attack. Naruto knew his time was soon coming to fight and he needed to perform his senjutsu scan. He didn't know if the invasion would happen this time around and he didn't know what the trigger would be if it was planned. He needed more information and Sage Mode was the only way he was going to get it. Forcing himself to retreat into his own world, Naruto closed off the rest of his senses and focused on his connection to nature. As he focused, the noise of the stadium faded, the smell of the food and alcohol no longer filled his nostrils, and the vibrations of the stadium no longer disturbed his concentration. As Samui activated her lightning jutsu, Naruto's sage markings appeared on his face and his senses spread. First came the overabundance of life in the arena along with all of the emotions that accompanied human life. Naruto ignored the influx of sensory information and pushed his senses out. He could feel the anxiety of Anbu patrols, the boredom of the guards on the wall and the scattered life forms throughout Konoha. Concentrating more and willing the nature energy to commune with the forests of Fire Country, Naruto kept spreading his senses out in an even radius from Konoha. Ity. He felt it, he felt what he had hoped he wouldn't, and it was worse than expected. 2,000 sound shinobi were in the forests nearly 10 miles away from Konoha. 3,000 shinobi were approaching from the direction of Iwa and their chakra felt earthy. He felt they were 25 miles out and moving closer at a steady pace. He sensed the anxiety and terror of a small group that was speeding towards Konoha, probably a Konoha patrol. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and he created 10 wood clones that dashed out to perform their assigned tasks. He leaned over to Gaara and whispered in his ear. Brother, I need you to trust me. We are about to be invaded. I need you to go to the north gate and inform the shinobi posted there. I will send you some Hyuga bowmen. Take Kankuro, we won't make it to his match. You have 30 minutes to get set up. Gaara didn't react, he simply leaned his head in and listened to Naruto. He nodded before he turned and said, good luck, brother. Then he disappeared in a sand shunshin with Kankuro. Kurotsuki saw Naruto acting weird and turned around to get a better look after the Sand brothers disappeared. She gasped when she saw the sage markings on his face, and her spine turned frigid when his intense emerald eyes locked on hers. They carried a potent power and promised pain, which terrified her to no end. Did he find out? How? The invasion wouldn't start for another hour. She tried to regain her composure, but she was distracted by a roar from the crowd. Temari limped over to Samui's downed form and saw that she was shredded pretty badly. That was her most powerful jutsu that she could use with her sensu fans, and she had landed a direct hit on her friend. Samui was groaning on the ground, and she was struggling to stand up. Temari coated her sensu fans in a sharp wind chakra and held the wind blades to her neck, claiming victory in the match. The crowd roared in excitement at the display of skill, speed and jutsu that had lasted for the last 10 minutes. Kurotsuki turned around after the distraction to see Naruto's gaze looking over the arena wall toward the north. She watched him disappear in a forest green flash of light, and the frigid feeling in her spine only intensified. It was nearly crippling at this point, as her body nearly refused to respond to her commands. As the match was wrapping up, Tsunade was startled by the appearance of a wood clone of her son. It was hard to tell the difference, but after interacting with them almost every day for the last 7 years, she could tell the difference. "What's going on, brat?" she whispered. 5,000, coming from the north, 30 minutes to an hour tops. Boss is informing the others. Boss plans to capture the Tsuchikage's granddaughter. The clone informed her in a low tone. Hoto and Kinji were watching him closely, so the clone addressed them. "Lord Hoto, Lord Kinji, please remain here. The forest grows dark in the day. My barriers will protect you." The forest grows dark in the day. It was the Land of Fire's code phrase for imminent attack, and Kinji had been notified of a possible invasion. His shock could wait. His country needed him to be a leader. "Naruto Senju, I am ordering you to tell everyone in this booth what is going on." The clone bowed. "Lord Kinji." Boss entered sage mode and tried to see if anything was off. "There are approximately 5,000 enemy shinobi that have penetrated our defenses, and they are 20 miles out and approaching quickly. Boss has set barrier seals around the stadium and village. Your booth is protected with his strongest barrier seals. I implore you to remain here." "No can do, kiddo. My samurai and guardians will cover things here. Proceed with your mission," Kinji ordered in a commanding tone. "Don't overreact yet, Lord Kinji. Let me capture the Tsuchikage's granddaughter first. Iwa is part of the invasion force." Kinji pondered the words. "Very well, we will move on your signal." Hashiman, the samurai general, leader of the Land of Fire's samurai forces, appeared on bended knee. "Inform your forces of the threat and be discreet. When the time comes, they will move civilians into the barrier seals." "It will be done, my lord," Hashiman responded. In the cage's box, an Anbu entered the box calmly and walked up to Itachi. The cloaked figure bent down and whispered into Itachi's ear. "Itachi-sensei, the forest grows dark in the day, 45 minutes. Sound and Iwa. Wait for my cue." Itachi nodded almost imperceptibly as the Anbu walked out of the cage's booth. Onoki saw the Anbu and shifted nervously in his seat. "Is everything all right, Lord Hokage?" the old Iwa leader asked. Itachi turned his head and met Onoki's gaze. "Nothing to worry about, Lord Tsuchikage. A bar brawl got out of hand and some of my shinobi were involved." Onoki let out a sigh of relief internally, before he responded. "Welcome to it. You will have many more such incidents. If only those incidents didn't come with so much paperwork." This statement earned a collective shudder from every leader in the booth. All leaders dreaded the P word. With the Jonin senseis, Naruto approached calmly so as not to draw attention. Asuma turned and aired his head in confusion. "Aren't you up next, bud?" The clone made the universal hand sign for gather around, and the Jonin knew better than to question Naruto when he had such a serious look on his face. "The forest grows dark in the day, 5,000 in about 40 minutes. Wait for boss signal." The 5 Jonin, Asuma, Kurenai, Guy, Kakashi and Anko, all failed to suppress their bodies' shocked reactions. Luckily, they didn't verbalize their shock. The Naruto clone answered a couple of their questions, and the Jonin sensei began reviewing their assigned roles for the impending invasion. The Naruto clone went down to Ino and gave her a tender K on the lips and told her to follow Asuma's instructions. Hiashi was surprised when Naruto appeared next to him, and he was even more surprised to see the sage markings and serious look on his face. The clone held up a hand in a request to let him speak. The Naruto clone leaned in close. Lord Hyuga, the forest grows dark in the day. We need the Hyuga bowmen on the northern and western walls. Be discreet. Wait for boss signal to go loud. Naruto's tone was firm, and it let Hiashi know that nothing more need be said. Hiashi nodded curtly. Very well, you will have them. I will remain here for your signal. A barrier is set up in the conference room immediately behind this section. Get the civilians and children in there as soon as you see my signal. Another nod from Hiashi and the wood clone phased into the floor of the arena. Temari was confused when she returned to the contestants' box and sensed that her brothers were no longer there. Naruto's transformed clones could no longer deceive her senses and she looked at him for an explanation. Naruto walked up, placed a chaste K on her lips and pulled her into a hug. As he rubbed her back, he whispered, "Invasion is happening. Iwa and sound, best guess is 35 minutes. I am going to capture Kurotsuki in my fight. Stay safe, my desert lily." Naruto gave her another passionate K before he used the standard Konoha Shunshin to appear in the arena. Temari was left stunned for a full 30 seconds before she recomposed herself and prepared for the events to come. As discreet messages echoed around the arena and attempted to alert Konoha's forces, Naruto squared off against Kurotsuki in the arena. The match hadn't even started, and she was sweating and breathing heavily. She was nervous because they were 30 minutes ahead of the scheduled time, which meant that the forces in the arena would be without reinforcements for far too long. She couldn't reasonably back out of the fight, so her only option was to stall. She had Han Sensei in the stadium with her and her grandfather. Then her father would be coming along with Roshi. She just needed to make it until then. Genma stepped forward and took the senbon out of his mouth. Finalists ready. Naruto nodded immediately and Kurotsuki looked to the cage's box before she nodded shakily. Begin. Kurotsuki placed her widest smirk she could muster on her face and decided to try and stall. All right, Senju, she was interrupted by a shaking from the ground that caused her to jump backwards. She watched in amazement as wooden vines emerged from the ground. The stadium joined her as a stunned silence fell over the arena. Now, Kurotsuki, I recommend you don't resist. It was my mistake for nearly killing you with that kick last time. Naruto began walking forward calmly toward Kurotsuki and leveling his aura on her. I do not appreciate what you attempted to do then or what you are attempting to do here today. Kurotsuki kept dashing around, avoiding the tremors in the ground that preceded the emergence of wooden monstrosities. What do you mean? Kurotsuki was now in a full state of panic as the demon's child showed off his monstrous strength. Naruto closed his eyes and focused on pulling water out of the air. The water condensed around him and formed two bubbles that began hovering over each of his hands. Naruto held both hands out and the water globules continued to grow as they hovered over the top of his hands. Water style, machine gun water pistols, Naruto called out loud enough to be heard as water balls the size of marbles were propelled from Naruto's gun-shaped hands at astounding speeds. Kurotsuki was in full panic mode as she was dodging the vines and then she saw him pulling water out of the atmosphere like some freak of nature. She saw water bullets heading toward her fast and she did the only thing she could think of. She flipped through 4 seals before calling out, lava style, lava wall. A wall of lava 10 feet wide and 6 feet tall was spat out of her mouth and absorbed the multitude of bullets that were speeding toward her. She listened to the dull impacts and the hiss of sizzling water in fear, trying to form a new plan. Naruto wasn't surprised by a defensive wall, so he dropped the handguns and weaved through 5 hand seals before he used the available water to create, water style, crashing waterfall. The water rushed up into the air before crashing down on the area behind the lava wall. He saw Kurotsuki jump to the side to avoid the deluge of water and he focused his chakra into the ground. After the ground water saturated, he stomped on the ground and called out, wood style, tree binding death. Before Kurotsuki could recover from her dive and roll, wood snared around both of her ankles and painfully immobilized her. Suddenly, the wood grew around her and immobilized her whole body, stretching her arms out to the sides. The tree kept growing and ensnared her and left only her head visible as Naruto transitioned his hands into the snake seal. Having his match won, and completely ignoring Genma, Naruto looked directly up into the cage's box. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.